Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is officially November 2023. It's actually the 2nd of November, for whatever it's worth. This is MSP Initiative, MSP Talk. We're going to get some housekeeping out of the way, and then we're going to get into some good stuff as we normally do. Of course, it is all about next week, but mspinitiative.com. This session is being recorded. We will be posting it on the podcast version and the video version, so you can always rewind and hold us to it, right? But the last thing of the year, this is the big one, right? It's the thing that everybody tries to hopefully converge on, is IT Nation in Orlando next week on Wednesday night at 9 p.m. right after all of the welcome reception and booth time and all that good stuff is at IT Nation at Rose and Shingle Creek. We will be holding our annual MSP Community Block Party, and there are a ton of vendors that have come together to make this happen. I probably can't scroll slow enough to catch them all, but you can head to mspblockparty.com and check them all out. Without them and without you, we would never make this happen. And by the way, it is totally about you. This is a block party for the community. We are bringing in Sugar Ray, Better Than Ezra, and Tonic as a 90s supergroup. This is following our All-American Rejects from last year. And this is set up as a rain or shine thing, guys. Like, this is set up as an outdoor thing with an outdoor stage and grass and, multiple venues and food and alcohol and everything. But if for some reason we have what happened last year, which is like hurricanes, weather, then we're going to move it to inside. So no matter what, this is happening. It is happening. I promise you. On this page, there is busing and shuttle information. We are running shuttles from the IT Nation Hotel to all of the other official conference hotels. There's 3 or 4 of them, or you can just Uber there. It's up to you. There's also registration links. So if you're an IT or MSP, click one way. If you're anyone else, click the other way. Register ahead of time because you don't want to get stuck at the door, type it on your cell phone and try and get a QR code to pop up. So please, please, please register ahead of time and just fast pass you through the line, like Disney World, fast pass. Okay. So there it all is, mspinitiative.com and mspblockparty.com. That's where you're going to find everything you need to know. We are super excited. Absolutely can't wait. We've been planning this for months. I feel like it takes a whole year for some reason to do this, but thank you to everybody involved. We could not do it without you, including today's special guest on the podcast, our friends from Liongard and their CEO, Michelle. How are you doing today, Michelle?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely love Liongard. Been watching this from the inception. What a cool story. And for people, that have never actually ran into Michelle before, I want to hear a little bit about your story, Michelle, because it's actually a cool story, right? You've been in the industry for a long time.
Oh yeah, for a really long time. And I've been on both sides of the fence. So I ran a very large, over $100 million MSP roll up and did that for a few years. Previous to that, I was in the Unified Communications as a service channel for nearly 10 years. With MSPs as my main partner channel and vendors. So again, having been an MSP, having dealt with the challenges that come with trying to have profitable growth, I have a really unique, I'll say, perspective, both from the vendor and being an MSP and then acquiring MSPs. So love to share information and knowledge around best practices, around what I got wrong, the things I did right, all of that. So really excited to meet people, especially at the upcoming IT Nation show to share my experience.
100%. Yeah, let's talk about that for a little bit. I would say that depending on who you talk to, I think it's definitely understood that outside money has found the sandbox that's known as MSP land, right? Both sides. I would say was definitely noticeable from the vendors that support MSPs, right?
Yes.
It feels like every year something's happening. People are buying, people are merging, whatever. And then somebody told me there's still 25 platform companies, basically a VC or a private equity company acquired an MSP, made them like their face company, and then they go in and they start
I'd
finding.
probably say it's probably more than 25 based on what
Okay.
I'm seeing in the marketplace. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is a growing number of companies that are roll ups and platforms. And then there are a number of MSPs that are getting rolled up more via bootstrapping from without outside investment. So really
Hmm.
exciting times in the MSP market.
Yeah. So like, is it too much? Is it too much traffic? Like that? Like if we fast forward from where you sit, let's go 5 years from now. Like, is how many? Like, does the MSP industry just like gobble itself up, and there's only a couple of companies left? Or,
Convergence is going to happen across every industry. It's it's a bit of a cycle.
Mhm.
I don't think we're at the high point of that just yet.
Mhm.
Ultimately, the thesis is that there will be a few big companies. I don't know that I buy in 100% to that. I think that there will also be small regional players. There's always going to be someone who breaks off from a larger organization and finds a new creative way to disrupt industry. I think the real areas of convergence haven't even are actually just getting started. Right? There's the convergence of different channels becoming MSPs, right? You see the telecommunications industry adding more and more managed services and cybersecurity. You see more and more companies that are becoming distributors and CSPs. So there's just a convergence in the overall industry. And I think MSPs that have good, solid, best practice operations and who also understand the importance of cybersecurity and good IT governance are going to be the ones that are going to be best positioned to go make smart acquisitions and build those companies into their processes. It's not easy though. I can say that having been on that side, again, doing acquisitions of smaller and mid-size and larger MSPs, there's a lot of work, culture, people, process, all of that technology that all needs to come together. And it's a difficult recipe, but can be done.
Well, yeah, I just saw past my my feed yesterday. It's like, at what point do you go from from the hustler who's just grinding to the CEO, and the whole concept of what got you there doesn't necessarily get you to the next place, right? Like, like I guess a good example would be like Austin McCord, right? Started and founded Datto, and then at some point, right, like they had to bring somebody in if they were going to go take this thing public, right? Because like it's a different skill set once you get to a certain size, right? um there's probably some truth to that, like, as you get, converge multiple companies together and you get to a certain, I don't know if it's a dollar amount, I don't know if it's people head count, whatever,
It's
operational maturity, a little bit of
it's operational maturity more so, and really where when a founder comes in, or rather when a founder's there and building their business, they generally, again, you have the core skills that you really are fantastic at. Maybe it's sales, maybe it's product and development. At a certain point, you need to be able to continue ramping, and you have to find people to fill the gaps. And that's when the right time is, when you see that the things that you're capable of or enjoy or want to lean into are not the things you're focusing on because you have to do 10 other things in the business. That's when it's the right time. And maybe that's a good segue to talk about my entrance into Liongard, because I've only been at Liongard um,
a
6 months
year. I was
now.
gonna say
No,
less than a
six
year.
months. If it's an amazing team. So for anyone who doesn't know what Liongard does, so we're a platform, a SaaS-based platform for MSPs for IT governance and cyber risk mitigation with our configuration, change detection, and response platform. So really cool capability to look across the cloud, network, endpoints, to be able to see what's changing and where the risk is. So we even have, we launched last month and we have even more enhancements coming to it, a new cyber risk dashboard that basically is continuously monitoring the controls around cyber insurance. So think MFA, email security, being able to surface insights around how you're doing in terms of managing to those controls that are most important for cyber insurance. And we've announced really cool partnerships with DataStream, with Cork. We're on the verge of announcing other exciting news in that cyber insurance and cyber warranty space because of the underlying technology that we have that can help from an underwriting perspective and to help people essentially as they're applying for cyber insurance, be able to not just check a box for attestation and wonder and hope, but be able to say, here is the proof. Here's the proof that we're doing the right things, and also help you understand where your gaps are. And that's a great selling tool for MSPs too, because now they can say, look, you're only, half your applications and users are actually leveraging MFA. This is your biggest risk. Being able to visually show that is, I think, a really powerful thing. And it's a powerful thing for executives, again, who have to sign those attestations or are, praying that someone is actually doing those things. Now they know. Now they can have a way to know.
Well, that's interesting. Like, so the base foundation of Liongard is like, it's just like there's all these collectors, right? So it's signing into all these things in different ways to like aggregate your data, right? I love how we've now turned this into, hey, now that we have access to all of this visibility across all your, cloud, prem, hybrid systems, hey, like now we're going to help the, on the, the security visibility, which is all the, definitely the hot topic. So let's actually talk about how this interfaces with the insurance or warranty guys for like 2 seconds. So like, are they seeing that data? Like, would they be able to look at the data that Liongard's aggregated at the point of, hey, I'm giving you a point in time quote, or are they continuously?
So both ways. So we're currently doing the integrations with these companies, and with DataStream, they're going to leverage that in the application process. That's the to help make the application process easier, and again, gives them data for underwriting. And Cork, which is a cyber warranty platform, which is a really cool, also created by Austin McCord, by the way.
Right? Yeah, he loves this.
And Carlson Choi, who's the CEO, really great guys. But they've created a cyber warranty capability where MSPs can actually sell this to their customers. MSPs have to be a licensed insurance broker to sell cyber insurance. But for cyber warranty, essentially, they're going to be leveraging our tech to continuously help monitor whether it's in compliance and be able to tell customer or the MSP, hey, this is falling out of compliance, so that and they know what needs to be fixed, such that the customer and the MSP can get paid if and when a cyber incident happens. So it helps them to lower the risk overall. And ultimately that gives a better experience for the end customer because they know they'll always be covered. Because if they aren't getting those notices, right, then they're relatively covered. So if you want to learn more, Carlson's going to be with me at IT Nation, and so we'll be able to talk about that even more at the event.
Oh, I mean, this sounds actually really cool. I mean, we've heard a lot of horror stories through the industry, and it's just like we all talk, right? It's not so big that people don't follow it. Like some of the insurance companies either send in the first person that interacts with you is bring in a copy of the questionnaire that you filled out and saying, hey, let's double check to make sure you're doing everything you said you're doing, because like we may not even accept the claim, right? And then the other part, and like the Matt Lees of the world have kind of shined a light on this, is like, hey, you put a claim in, it was paid out, all good. 3 years later, the insurance company came back and sued the MSP saying, hey, we're looking for our money back because we found out after the fact, when we closed this, did the due diligence, that you didn't do what you said you were supposed to do.
Yeah, so I can tell you some things that I've seen I've seen a tech take MFA off of a client, and cyber, a crypto miner come in, run an Azure bill up hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Mhm.
Insurance company and forensic come in, say, hey, we can't prove you ever had MFA on this. We're not going to pay MSP. We're stuck with the bill. But if that MSP would have had Liongard would have told them that, hey, there's a new global admin on the account and the MFA had been turned off. This is, would have been able to alert them, and put all that information into whatever PSA the MSP is leveraging, so they can get alerted either within Liongard or within their PSA. But let's say the tech still didn't pay attention to that, didn't do their job. Liongard has this amazing feature. It's a timeline that goes back 18 months that you can actually see what any configuration was at any point in time in that 18 months. And so you could go back to that day of attestation and say, no, look here, MFA actually was turned on for that. And be able to have a level of what we like to call cyber insurance defensibility. You're able to provide the proof. Hey, this is what happened. And I have never seen that kind of tech in any other platform that I have worked in. And I've been in tech, I don't know, 28 years now. So it's really exciting. And I wish when I was an MSP that I knew about Liongard. It would have been something that would have helped me quite a bit, and my techs quite a bit. So
I think part of the like piecing the information together could be a very timely, on like if you had to go back and say, hey, I've not centralized any of this together. I need to now go out and pull data. Either A, it's not available anymore because maybe too much time's passed, or B, like just the time investment to go and try and gather the information manually is it's a tall order. So yeah, 100%. I love the fact that like the platform is actually designed to do this, right? Like it's
yeah,
like literally creating this automation path for you so that you don't have to. Of course, the challenge would be maybe they didn't integrate all of their systems in. That could be the challenge, right? Like I guess the goal for Liongard would be, hey, if you're using 40 vendors, tie 40 vendors in the Liongard so
yeah.
that
Again, we have about 80 vendors in Liongard today. And we're always growing that to some degree. We try to focus, obviously, where the MSP market is focused in those types of solutions, but we are adding more, and we obviously take feedback from our partners. We're also working on and I can't promise a delivery date on this, but next year in the 2024 year is a sort of a build your own inspector capability, so that if somebody wants something that we don't have, that we can enable that in a better way. So that's something, again, is on our roadmap to help us even further extend the solution. And I want to say, like, obviously, configuration change detection and response is the core of the heart of Liongard. But there's so much more that we see MSPs using Liongard for. Billing reconciliation, for one, and we've got a great tie-in to Gradient. So that's another capability that I think is very powerful. We have a partner, Kyocera, that I think told me they found 15,000 a month in missed billings, literally from the first month that they started leveraging that. So that's a lot. And by the way, every MSP has that problem. It's something that I know from having been on the other side of the table. It's something that revenue leakage is a real challenge, and something that, again, Liongard can help with. Onboarding of customers is another really cool thing. So with Liongard, when you sign up, you get 30 days to sort of do discovery on a customer without getting charged, to be able to better quote them more accurately, so you'll understand everything that they have, so that you can actually, again, better understand your risk in that customer environment and potentially sell in additional projects. That saves time, makes, obviously, your opportunities more profitable. All of these things are again use cases that are all tie into this configuration change detection and response. But again, I feel like Liongard is one of those solutions that I'm trying to, bottle up and say, hey, let's focus in this configuration change detection space. But there really are so many use cases for the technology, and we're gonna announce some really exciting additional new partnerships in the RPA space. So don't want to give away all, with who that might be, but keep an eye out here in the next week.
I can only imagine. There's only a couple of names come to my mind. Okay, that's cool. I mean, so to your point, right? Like the tentacles of Lion Guard can be used in a lot of different ways. What do you tell people who say, Michelle, we just don't have like a DevOps or like a coding type person in our company to like, and this is the same problem we have with the PSA or the RMMs, right? It's like, hey, like in order to get it to really do something, you need to get in and start writing scripts or something. For the people that don't have that inside their organization, like, is this thing easy enough to get going, or how much investment in time does it take to get it
Sure.
going?
So we actually have a Smart Start program to help people with their onboarding and such, and we've built a full capability from a training perspective to help people go along that journey. But the other thing is we also offer professional services to help do it for you if you need. We're not a professional services organization. It's not something that we lean into a lot, but that shouldn't be the thing that holds you back. I mean, what I will tell you is if you think it takes, if something takes you, let's say, um, 10, 20, 30, 40 hours, but it's going to save you hundreds of hours, you have to make those kinds of decisions. And it's hard. I know it's not easy, but I can promise you that if you're leveraging Liongard and you're taking that time, and again, it depends on the size and scope of your we have customers that are 20 managed environments, and we have customers that are 2,000 managed environments. So the investment of time and effort depend on the use cases that you're trying to be able to deliver on. Certainly getting and understanding what's in your cloud environments is the fastest path to value, then moving into the network, then into the endpoints. Your ability to follow that guideline that we give you to help you get to value quick, but it's again very much tied to what you get in is what you get out.
Fair.
If
Oh,
you're so I would say to any organization that says, hey, this is too much time to put in, like there's ways to deal with this, whether it's professional services or leveraging our training or just managing it across a time frame that building a project plan to build it in and get them to the value they're specifically looking for. Those are all things we're used to doing.
no, that's fair. I mean, there's the trade show fatigue, right? Where you walk down the aisle, you bought a bunch of stuff, you never set it up because you were too busy, and then 6 months later you're like, uh-oh, like what am I doing, right? So, we see that from time to time in the MSP land where, like the right resources within the organization isn't really available to onboard the solution. So obviously the pro services model, I didn't even know that, right? I'm learning on this call with everybody else that's going to watch this. So that's cool. I didn't even know you guys offered that. Um, so like from a use case scenario, right? We talked about this, new security kind of view, the ability to use that to tie into the cyber insurance, cyber warranties. You talked about change management, right? Being able to see when, why, where, how in a timeline. Awesome. 18 months, by the way. I never knew there was a like 18 months. Like now we know how much time you can go back. Cool. Um, the hopefully soon the ability to build your own inspection or collector things. Awesome. So what other pieces, like the people who really leverage Liongard, like you call them your power users, what other cool things have you seen done? Like what are they doing that maybe outside of the normal box that you would position Liongard
Well,
for?
again, I think there are, I've seen folks take our data and leverage it into their own customer portals to be able to give insight to their customers around what's changing in their environments. I mean, there are the possibilities are endless. Again, where we're focused, though, I want to make sure that is really around helping you understand where that configuration change is. Because ultimately that's where your risk is. That's where good IT policy and governance happens, which is what your customers are paying you for when you're an MSP. They really want you to take care, make sure that they're you know, they're able to be productive in their environments and do it in a compliant way. I think that that's something that Liongard does extraordinarily well. And then all of these additional benefits are just that. There's extra value in this. So the other piece that I think is really cool is, again, you can leverage Liongard's reports and capabilities to help shine light on where there's other non-recurring revenue opportunities, right? Like doing you can use this as an assessment tool. You can use it or build that in as a continuous assessment tool that you charge a monthly recurring revenue. That's the thing we've been really focusing on is how do we teach MSPs they should be monetizing Liongard. You don't have to do this for free. You don't just have to add it into your stack. This is an opportunity for you to make money. Today, Liongard, has multiple options for you. We have pay-as-you-go options. We have a yearly commit option that's a little less expensive, but your ability to, for really, a customer environment can cost you, as for 25 endpoints, as little as just under $40. You can't tell me that you can't charge your customer $80 a month and make 100% margin on that. It's such inexpensive. It's an inexpensive solution that gives you both. I think when I was talking to PAX 8, they called it we're the watcher of the watchers, to give you this proof of compliance and of what's changing in the environment, and that you're doing your ability to essentially build that in, and again, price it per user. You can put it into your overall bundles. We have a whole monetization kit to help partners be able to do this, filled with emails, content for their website, etc. And we have, I have to say, the best marketing team that is more than willing to also help our MSPs. So if you ever need anything there, I can tell you Vincent Tran, CMO, is awesome, and will be more than happy to help.
That's awesome. Sorry, just trying to get over this cold. Love that. I didn't realize you had a monetization kit either. That's cool. Have you seen this work well in a co-managed environment where there's an internal IT department and maybe the MSP isn't taking care of everything?
Absolutely. In that case, you can invite in the co-manage the customer to be able to see what you're seeing in the environment. What a great way to, again, have a complete set of visibility around that configuration change detection, and also keep the finger pointing from happening, because you can sort of see where changes are coming from in many ways.
Beautiful. I love that. I think part of the challenge moving forward for MSPs, obviously this security thing is like never ending, right? Just keeps growing, new legs, new arms. I think the compliance thing is a little bit difficult especially because MSPs usually are not super verticalized. They have customers in multiple avenues. Like you could have to deal with compliance that you didn't even know existed because of where your customers are, right?
Yeah.
It kind of feels like it's, you're getting squeezed from both sides, right? Your end customer just wants things to work, and they just don't want to have to deal with, anything technology other than they get in their car, they turn the ignition and run. But we're also getting squeezed from the other side, which is, well, you can't really just say, well, the customer didn't want to pay for it. So that's why the compliance
Well,
stuff is in handy.
well, the problem is you're going to wind up paying for it as the MSP if you don't have solutions like this in place, because the scenario that I played out for you, those are real scenarios that happen. That if you're especially, larger MSPs that have PE backing, maybe they can absorb some risk. Not really, but maybe they can. But if you're a small to mid-size MSP, how do you absorb that? How if a crypto miner comes in and runs up and your customer doesn't their cyber insurance won't pay because you weren't doing the things, or they weren't doing the things and paying for it, but they point back at you're going to be in lawsuit bill, or you're going to be having to figure out how to pay for that. How do you do that? Why wouldn't you spend a little money and then teach your customers? Within Liongard, you have this new cyber risk dashboard. You have these metric reports. You can give them to your customers. It's not like you're not asking them to have blind faith. You're going to be able to give them the reporting that shows them what you're doing to keep them safe and what actions they need to take in order to meet the cybersecurity and just their basic IT needs. Ultimately, they may not have an idea of how many licenses have changed over time. All of this stuff can help them from a budgeting perspective. Selling that value back into the customer, that's what we have to teach MSPs to do. And back to your conversation about like, how do you know when a founder, like, so at Liongard, Joe Alapat, who is brilliant, he realized that his superpower strength is in product, technology, and in strategic partnerships. And he knew that my superpower strength is more on the go-to-market side, doing this monetization, and together we come together and we create just an amazing team. But the recognition by Joe and in his journey, that, hey, it's the right time to bring in somebody to take the reins as CEO to do some of this work. Like, that's how it works when it's great. So that's how I would say someone who's thinking about it's like, again, when you're not getting to do the thing where your superpower is, that's when the time to bring someone else in.
100%. So I'm going to flip back to some of some of the stuff we talked back in the beginning, which is, when do you as an MSC decide when to continue to grow granularly versus when it makes sense to go out and try and do something different, like an acquisition or a merge? Like, is there a specific metric in your head based on your experience where it's like, this leans one way, this leans the other way? Or, is it not is it not black or white enough that it kind of one calc fits all things?
Yeah. So I think that when you yourself have a good, profitable, you have strong profitability, and you have a base of mature operations yourself, that and what your framework is. You're ready to go look for companies that fit into that framework, both from a technology side, but also from a culture perspective, that the teams are going to work well, because it's not easy to do these lifts. People always underestimate what it's going to take to do integration. So understanding, again, what you're going to be integrating to and with, and again, how that's going to affect your profitability is really, really important.
With the remote working scenario, is the work culture a little bit watered down now? Like, these people aren't,
I don't think so. I think it's even more important to consider culture, because yeah, you maybe not in person, but you're still having to collaborate, and if you don't have people that are used to the same way of working, like maybe everyone's using Slack for collaboration, let's say, and you all of a sudden you hire in a bunch of workers who never leveraged that, don't know how to don't value collaboration, like to work in their bubble, like it's going to be different. It's going to be difficult, right? I mean, ultimately, you want to have people who, um, again, have a shared vision of how you're going to service your customers, have a shared vision of where you're taking the company. Like if you want to be the largest MSP, across the US, it's very different than hey, we want to be the one that's known in Florida. And, in terms of the approach you're going to take, or in a specific vertical, like making sure that you just got alignment across the market you're going to go after, and again, how you're going to service that market.
That's fair. Flipping to the other side, right? Obviously, there's unavoidable, money coming in on the vendor side, right? And like, every year it feels like the known vendors seem to be going into each other, and then obviously there are net new vendors popping out on the other side. Like the MSP's end customers don't really see a lot of that because they're not necessarily asking their MSP, hey, what documentation tool are you using? What PSA are you using? What RMM are you using? Unless it's one that shows up in a headline somewhere, they just expect, hey, you need to have the toolbox you need to do this job. I just need to make sure my power's running, my email's running, my cell phone's working, right? Like they don't care that necessarily on the tools that MSP's using. But I think there's this, I don't know, back to the sandwich, kind of effect where, hey, the end customer also wants a predictable, spend. But if the vendor behind the MSP keeps changing the rules of how their stuff is acquired, it's hard for that to stay, predictable, I guess, to the end customer. Do you see
Well,
that?
I think ultimately the contract vehicles that the MSP creates with the customer need to have flexibility built in to some degree. Like, hey, on a yearly basis, we're going to evaluate what's in the bundle to make sure that you've got the best security backup, blah, 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 blah. And we're going to look to not increase prices over X percentage. But being upfront about that and having some transparency, I think, is the key to success. And if you have customers who say absolutely nothing can change and it has to be at this price point, then you have to educate that customer more. Because ultimately, you want to say, hey, if some new cyber threat comes on that none of these tools address, do you really want to be left open to that issue? Or if there's some new compliancy piece that comes in, or they're going after a new, you need to be able to have a real, and also be sensitive to that customer to say, hey, if costs, costs are always affecting everyone, but if that's something that you're really concerned about, if this goes up 10 or 15%, then let's talk about the things that maybe we can eliminate, or look for different ways for us to be creative in how we support you. But I think having those open, transparent conversations as part of the sales process up front is critical. If you don't set that expectation in the beginning, it's hard to reset it at another stage. The only other thing I'll say to that, though, is remember that there is change that's happening across a customer's organization. There's always new executives coming in. There are always new employees that need to be. So don't be afraid if you have, if you unfortunately set an expectation that isn't the expectation that you need to set on the go forward, to go back and have those conversations. These can be opportunities from my perspective to grow trust. To say, hey, look, I know we are charging you $150 per user and that included X, Y, and Z. Well, all of these costs have gone up. And so therefore, we really need to have a conversation about, raising this up. Here's where my costs are. Hey, when can we do this? That's going to make, that's going to work. That's going to work for you, because your customers don't want you to fail and not be able to hire and give raises to your people. And they don't want that to be the case. So bring them in and make them a part of the solution. Like, what can we do together to make sure you're getting the best service, quality of service, and the best protection, but also making sure that we don't go broke so we're out of business.
Yeah.
I think treating people as humans and having real transparent conversation in my book is the thing that really always helps.
No, 100%. I mean, I feel like I don't know if this is a generational thing or it's just like the younger the person, I at least from my experience, it feels like the less they want to get into a you know touchy conversation or something where there's like stress into the conversation, right? To kind of avoid the hard talk. And like unfortunately in this business, I feel like that leads into a gray area that only is bad for the
Well,
MSP.
use the numbers. I mean, just use the numbers to your advantage. Ultimately, I probably skew very far, in a direction of transparency. I would say to my customer, like, look, here are the costs to support you. Now we have to have a 40% margin in order to, or 50, whatever it is that you have set as the margin you need. And you have to have that conversation and be able to say, look, we're right here. We only have a 5% margin. I can't run my business on this and
Yeah.
support you well. But you have to be comfortable. And a lot of people aren't comfortable with transparency, um, but I think it's really critical to have a successful business is to be transparent, and again, get the right customers that want you to succeed too. Because if it's all they win, you lose, that's a bad scenario, and you have to look at how do you replace those customers.
100%. Moving into like there's only 60 days left in this year, right? It could be in 2024 before you know it. I think one of the challenges in like continuously reviewing what's happening is just time, right? I mean, I know it has to happen, but some of the business owners out there, especially in the smaller MSPs, they're still working very much in the business, right? On the
Mhm.
day to day. And like it does take a certain amount of bandwidth to be able to, kind of step back and say, are things going the way that we want them to, or what do we need to make adjustments? And some people, to the point that I made earlier in the call, it's like they don't have enough time to collect the data, right? So that they could even understand.
This is where tools like Liongard help them, right? I mean, this is ultimately they get their whoever's handling their billing and finance, they have their service delivery, their NOC, their SOC. They need to break this up and get those people to implement a tool and a solution like what Liongard offers. And by the way, I don't know of another solution that does what Liongard does, which is also a pretty cool thing. Is we are really very much a category creator, which is an exciting place to be, hard but exciting place to be. And ultimately leveraging a tool that gives you all of this insight and can really help you better get a handle of what you have to manage in terms of where things aren't perfect, where you have those gaps, getting a good sight of where those misconfiguration gaps are, and then getting a good sense of what your cyber posture is for your customers and being able to share that. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me. Again, like I said, I only kicked myself. I didn't know about it sooner, but when this opportunity came to me and I learned more about Liongard, it really blew me away, the potential of this solution for MSPs.
That's awesome. IT Nation next week. Obviously, we know you're going to be there and you're going to be talking about some of these new partnerships, right? The cybersecurity and maybe some new stuff, right?
Yep, some new stuff.
Do you find value in the channel events like that? I like there's a little bit of a conversation going on about, are there too many events? Is it just like, is it event overload at this point? How many things can take you out of your business annually at like reasonable?
Yeah. So I have two thoughts on this. One is, yes, I love events. I think that ultimately anything that brings people together to network in person, and to really be able to show a solution and get people talking to each other. Like the best selling at my booth happens not when I'm talking, But when one partner of mine's at the booth and then another prospect comes up and they overhear each other, and then the next thing you know, they start talking, and the next thing I know, I have a sale. That's the way that I think it's amazing. The challenge that I'm seeing is that we see a lot of overlap of who attends events. Now, we're not yet saturated where we've sold to every single MSP that's out there. But I think it's a little bit challenging when you do see the same folks. So it's how do you get to the people who don't go to the physical events and get to a lot of the techs? I mean, we don't just believe in selling to the top of the chain. We really believe in educating across the organization. So how do you get to those people who weren't fortunate enough to be there in person and deliver? So whether that's virtual events, whether that's a level of outbound, we haven't figured out the secret sauce there yet. If you do, then please tell us. But I think the need for in-person events is there. It's just, you got to be smart. You can't be everywhere all the time. But I also think that the more you can get ambassadors from your customers who may be at different events or through your other channel partners, like I'm such a big advocate of these technology, our alliance partnerships with all the different companies that we integrate with. Like we have 80 of them. And so for us, we're going to be leaning into those partners and saying, hey, are you going to these shows? Hey, can you talk about our integration there? Here's an incentive you could do. Or those types of conversations, I think are really critical and need to be really thought of in a marketing strategy for a vendor and for MSPs, by the way. Your vendors are opportunities for you to get the word out and do demand generation through your partnerships with technology vendors as well.
All right, let me flip that around now. Do you find value in incentivizing the MSP to go out and do events for their end customers or prospects?
Well, I'm seeing more and more of that happen, and we're participating in more of those MSP events that get to other MSPs and then some to their end users. Ultimately, it remains to be seen. We don't have enough. I don't have enough data yet to say the ROI is perfect on this, but we've certainly taken some bets and seen some good outcomes from leaning into those MSP events, those
Awesome.
MSP run events.
No, I mean, listen, you don't know until you try, right? So,
Yep.
do you find that the newer MSP who's maybe started in the last 3 to 5 years seems to be a little bit more streamlined than people that maybe have been around longer? Maybe that's because of the technology that was adopted at the time, or some of the newer guys just don't seem to have as much legacy technology that they have to manage kind of moving
Yeah.
forward. Do you
Well,
feel
I think obviously there are more options today, and so when people put together their tech stack, I think they're more thoughtful about it than before. There were maybe, I'll call it, two major options, and that was your only options. And every you can have any flavor as long as it's vanilla. That's now I think people are again having a better understanding of who they're going after and what, and they have more and better choices that they can now. It's going to make that. It's also why you see the big vendors in the space are doing really creative things to bundle up as many vendors underneath them to try to keep and hold, because they know that I'll call it the best of breed solutions are nibbling at their heels. So what better way to avoid that than to acquire them and
hey, I'm going to take out by the competition. I'm just going to buy them. Sure, that's a strategy for sure. One thing that I've personally noticed, as time has gone on, is the ability for the founding people in their companies, even any company, but specifically MSPs, like kind of let go of control, right? I know there's a trust factor in there, right? Like, does the person I'm handing the reins off to in this category, in this particular responsibility? Can they do it? But I feel like that part, like the longer you're in your business, the more you're willing to maybe let go of certain things. So I have been, especially people that have been around the industry for a while, I've finally seen people say, it's time. I can't do everything. I gotta, spin things off to people. I guess the one concern I have in that thought strategy, and we didn't get a chance to touch on this topic, is like keeping people in your business, right? Because like, hey, you finally bring somebody in, you finally offload that particular responsibility, and then that person leaves, and then you got to take it back, you got to start all over again. It's disruptive, right? So like, I don't know what you feel are the best practices around, I don't know, making sure people are happy, evaluating employees, keeping people around for the long haul. I don't know what if there is a magic sauce to that, but
I don't know that there's a magic sauce. I think ultimately I go back to transparency and communication. Um, I think that also oftentimes when you're doing change because you need something different in your business. Maybe you haven't run your sales organization with a level of accountability, or maybe your service delivery team hasn't had KPIs that they have to deliver to. So sometimes, my obviously you want to keep every good and good, highly productive employee happy, and I think the best way to do that is to tell those good and highly productive employees that we think you're great and we want you to be here for the long term. And this is how we see you growing with us. And is that how you see yourself growing? Because I think asking the question to employees are like, are you where you want to be to begin with? Right. And how do we work on a plan to get you where you want to be? And by the way, here's the plan for the business. Here's the vision and strategy for the company. And does that align? And if it doesn't, if people opt out and say, look, this isn't aligned to, then that's good. Then that's not regrettable, employee churn. That's what you want to have happen. You want to make room then for talent that aligns to the vision of where the company is going, not necessarily where it's been. Is there risk in that? Absolutely. But every company that goes through a transition has to make sure that it either can, through again consistent transparent communication, bring employees along with them, or in a kind manner make changes that bring in the people who want to do those things.
yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's a tightrope to walk, but that's why there's a lot of people consulting in this category, I think, because there isn't any one right answer. But I do love transparency. I do like accountability. I'm a blunt force trauma guy. I'm from Philly, so that's how we work up here. Sometimes that's a little bit overkill for people who aren't from this area.
Yeah.
Because
Well, I tell people do a 9 box. I mean, if like where do your employees sort of fit in terms of the productivity they give, the costs that they have, and where do they fit in that 9 box of whether you're going to, whether these are people that, and if you can sort of do that mental model and then have a conversation, if there are people who are in the, in the high cost, low productivity, like you really got to go have a coaching conversation to get those people to change or decide to exit. And then those, like I said, those highly productive, that are in a reasonable cost price point, you need to be able to tell them how valuable they are to the business and give them a path to continue to grow. It's something that I've done in every organization I've been in, and I think it's just super critical to success.
That's awesome. Wow, you have so much, kind of history in the sandbox. I mean, I could keep going, but I know we're running up against the time. I love what Liongard's doing. I love the focus on security, but I mean, if you really think about it and you zoom out, I think this is kind of like a multi-tool roll up. Like there's so many things that when you look at your stack of technologies, you have all these standalone pieces. I think your product does, some of what other products may offer in one package. So, and it seems, like the example you gave for like 25 endpoints, like it's not a lot of money. I know people have paid more for other things that definitely do not do as much.
I sat with Gartner analysts 2 weeks ago at Gartner Symposium, and the analysts, when I told them they're like, whoa, way too inexpensive. And I was like, well, great. Let's get that word out to the MSPs that this is an opportunity for them. And look, the pricing won't stay there forever as more and more value comes. We hope to, though, be able to help the MSP monetize, because that to me is the secret sauce. If we're helping you monetize and we're helping you become more profitable by essentially saving your text time and also finding revenue leakage, this is the winning solution to help you with all of those things. And you
I
know,
love
for
that.
less than, I call it like less than $2 a day for your customer, you can have this.
I love that. And definitely on the we didn't bill for something we should have. That happens all day, every day, 1,000%. Seen it myself. I love that story. I assume people can go to liongard.com to get more information.
You can, absolutely. And I'm Michelle.Accardi at liongard.com. I'm always happy to get an email or reach out to me on LinkedIn. I try to be very active in social and just here to help.
Awesome. I can't wait to talk to you some more next week at IT Nation. Thank you for pitching in on the block party. We love that. I know it seems like a little bit amount for everybody, but trust us.
Oh, I'm so excited. This is bringing me back to my younger years. So
Yeah,
super
it is.
happy
It
and
is.
excited about it.
Maybe one of these days, people from this industry can figure out why it's so hard to book professional talent. Isn't that whole Fire Festival documentary I read? I think it's the right idea. It just went a wrong way. Too funny. Michelle, see you next week. Liongard.com. Hey guys, this session was absolutely 100% recorded. We're going to get it online in both podcast and video format in a little while on MSPinitiative.com. Please make sure to pre-register for the block party, MSPblockparty.com, if you're coming next week. And by the way, if you're not going to IT Nation for some reason and you're just in the area, there's no requirement that you have to be going to IT Nation to do the block party. You can absolutely just come in, register. It costs you absolutely nothing. We can't wait to see you guys down there one way or another. Thank you very much, Michelle. See you soon.
Thank you.